My wife abandoned me because her best friend made up. I cheated. I kicked her out of my house, and she got revenge with a brutal lie. But her own texts exposed her, and she lost everything. I'm 35 years old. I live in Denver, and about a year and a half ago, I got divorced from who I thought would be the love of my life. And it wasn't because of actual infidelity. It wasn't because we stopped loving each other. It wasn't for any of the normal reasons couples split up. It was because my ex-wife's best friend was a manipulative psychopath who destroyed my marriage with lies because I had the audacity to kick her out of my house. And the worst part of it all is that my wife believed her instead of believing me. But anyway, I guess I should start from the beginning. I met Ruby when I was like 28. She was 26, and the connection was immediate. You know, the kind that feels like in the movies. She was beautiful, intelligent. We had the same weird taste in music. We both hated cilantro with a passion. Those kinds of things that make you think the universe literally put this person in your path. We dated for 2 years before getting engaged, and everything was perfect, except for one detail that I, like an idiot, decided to ignore because I was in love. That detail was named Savannah. Savannah was Ruby's best friend since high school. I mean, they'd been friends for like 10 years when I came into the picture. And from the first moment I met her, something in my head told me this woman was trouble. I can't explain it well, but there was something about the way she talked, about how she always had to be the center of attention, about how every story Ruby told me about her ended with some drama where Savannah was the misunderstood victim. But Ruby adored her, defended her from everything, said Savannah had had a difficult life and that's why she was like that. And I, wanting to be the understanding boyfriend, never said anything beyond vague comments like, "Oh, how interesting," or I see. Things got weird during the wedding planning. Ruby and I got engaged after 3 years together, and we were super excited planning everything. Nothing ostentatious. We wanted something intimate, like 80 people, at a nice but not over-the-top venue on the outskirts of Denver, and then Savannah, who was obviously going to be the maid of honor, started with her demands. First, it was the dress, which had to be a certain color because another color made her look pale or I don't know what. Then it was the location where she was going to stand during the ceremony, which had to be specific so she'd look good in photos. But the straw that broke the camel's back for me, though again I stayed quiet, was when she demanded that she also have her own special moment, walking down the aisle. I'm not joking. This woman wanted her own special entrance before the normal bridesmaids came in, with her own song and everything, because she was the best friend and deserved special recognition. Ruby thought it was a cute idea, something to honor their friendship, and I just said, "Whatever makes you happy, babe," because I didn't want to start our married life fighting over the toxic friend. So yeah, at my wedding, Savannah had her protagonist moment walking alone down the aisle while some dramatic song played, and everyone was like, "What's up with this?" but nobody said anything. We got married in May 2022, and the first months were incredible. We had a nice apartment in Capitol Hill. I worked at a software company. Ruby was a freelance graphic designer, and we were building our life together. Savannah showed up often, but it was manageable. I mean, she'd come to dinner every 2 weeks. Sometimes she'd crash on the couch if she drank too much, that kind of thing. Annoying but not unbearable. Everything changed in September of that year. Savannah had been dating this guy, Cameron, for like a year and a half. Ruby always said they were the perfect couple, that they were going to get married, all that stuff. And then out of nowhere, Cameron broke up with her. I don't know exactly why. Ruby never gave me clear details. Just said Cameron said he needed space or something. Like that. Savannah obviously made a monumental drama out of it. She was destroyed, calling Ruby crying at 3 in the morning, threatening to hurt herself, the whole emotional manipulation repertoire you can imagine. And then came the question that changed everything. Ruby told me one night, with that soft voice she used when she knew I wasn't going to want what she was about to propose, "Do you think Savannah could stay with us for a few days until she finds a new place?" According to Ruby, Savannah had been living with Cameron and now had nowhere to stay because technically the apartment was his. I said okay. A few days, thinking it would be like 5 or 6 days maximum. A few days turned into an entire month of hell. This woman basically took control of our apartment. She left her clothes lying around everywhere. used my bathroom products without asking permission, changed the TV channel when I was watching something, made passive-aggressive comments about everything, from how I made coffee to how we decorated the place. She ate our food without replacing anything, invited her friends over without notice, played music at ridiculous volume when I was on work calls. And the worst part was that Ruby defended everything she did with some excuse like she's going through a difficult time or she doesn't mean it badly. But the moment that really made me explode was when I came home early from work on a Tuesday, like at 3 in the afternoon, because I'd finished my stuff and my boss let me leave, and I found Savannah in my bed. Not on the couch where she was supposed to be sleeping. In my bed, with Ruby, watching a movie, eating popcorn, like it was nothing. And when I asked them what was going on, Savannah looked at me with that little superiority smile and said, "Oh, it's just that the couch is super uncomfortable, and Ruby said we could watch the movie here." They didn't even ask me. That night, I waited for Savannah to go out with some friends and told Ruby that enough was enough, that Savannah had to leave. Ruby started with how she couldn't just throw her out on the street, that she was her best friend, that she just needed a little more time. And I, trying to stay calm, even though I was boiling inside, told her it had already been a month, that this was supposed to be a few days, that Savannah clearly wasn't looking for her own place because she was too comfortable using ours. Ruby started crying, saying I didn't understand female friendship, that she would be devastated if I left a friend on the street. And I responded that the difference was I would never let a friend take advantage of us like this. In the end, I gave her an ultimatum, something I never thought I'd have to do with my wife. I told her Savannah had a week to find another place, that I would help her look, that I'd even lend her money if necessary, but that she couldn't keep living with us. Ruby reluctantly agreed, and the next few days were super tense. Savannah obviously found out about the conversation and started treating me with a contempt she didn't even try to hide. She completely ignored me. If I spoke, she'd leave the room. That kind of childish stuff. She finally found a place, a small studio like 20 minutes from us, and left. Ruby cried when we helped her move, as if her best friend was dying instead of just moving 20 minutes away. And I honestly thought the worst was over, that now we could get back to our normal life. How naive I was. The next 2 weeks were weird. Ruby was distant, less affectionate, spent a lot of time on her phone exchanging messages with Savannah. When I asked if everything was okay, she'd say yes, that she was just worried about her friend. And then one Friday night, I got home from work, and Ruby was sitting on the couch with an expression I'd never seen on her. Cold, hard, almost with hatred. She looked at me and said, "We need to talk." And I, thinking we were going to have some conversation about boundaries with Savannah or something like that, sat down and said, "Sure, what's up?" And then Ruby dropped the bomb on me. She told me that Savannah had called her that afternoon crying, saying she had seen something she didn't know if she should tell her, but her conscience wouldn't let her stay quiet. That she had gone to a cafe downtown yesterday, Thursday around 6 in the evening, and that she had seen me there with another woman. That we were super affectionate, that we were kissing, that it clearly wasn't a work meeting. I was in total shock. I literally couldn't process what I was hearing because it was so absurdly false that I didn't even know how to start defending myself. I told her it was a lie, that I hadn't even been downtown on Thursday, that I had worked from home all day and then gone to the gym like I always did on Thursdays. I had my gym log on the app. I could show her. And Ruby looked at me and said, "Savannah has no reason to lie about something like this." That phrase destroyed me. No reason to lie. As if all the signs that Savannah was a manipulator didn't exist. I told her, of course, she had a reason, that she was angry because I had kicked her out of our house, that obviously this was revenge. Ruby shook her head and said, that was ridiculous, that Savannah would never do something like that she had known her for 10 years and I had only been in her life for 5 years. I tried to show her my location from Thursday on Google Maps, my gym log, my text messages from that day. But Ruby had an answer for everything. That I could have deleted messages, that I could have turned off my location, that the gym log didn't prove I hadn't gone downtown before or after. It was clear she had already decided to believe Savannah, and nothing I said was going to change that. I begged her to think about it logically, that she knew me, that she knew I would never be unfaithful to her. I told her to please talk to Savannah and ask for specific details, what I was wearing, what the woman looked like, the name of the cafe. But Ruby said Savannah had already given her all those details. That I had a blue shirt she recognized, that the woman was blonde and thin, that it was at the Starbucks on 16th Street. And the thing is, I do have a blue shirt, but I hadn't worn it that day. And besides, I don't even go to Starbucks because I hate their coffee. The conversation got worse and worse. Ruby started bringing up things from the past, moments where, according to her, I had been distant, or where I had come home late. She twisted everything to fit this narrative that I was a cheater. And at some point I realized this wasn't a conversation. It was a trial where I was already condemned. That night Ruby slept in the guest room. The next day she packed a suitcase and told me she was going to stay with Savannah for a while she decided what to do. I told her if she left, if she chose to believe her friend instead of me without any real proof, then our marriage was over. And she looked at me with eyes red from crying and said, "Then I guess it's over." She left. And I was left alone in our apartment, surrounded by our things, our photos, our life, unable to believe what had just happened. The next few days were a fog. I tried calling her, sending her messages, but she had me blocked. I asked mutual friends to talk to her, but they all said Ruby was devastated and needed space. Like a week later, I received a message from Ruby. She didn't even call me. It was a text message that said, "I want a divorce. Please hire a lawyer." That cold, that final. I responded, begging her to at least talk in person, that this was crazy, that Savannah was lying. But I didn't receive any more responses. And then the worst part started. Savannah had been telling her version of events to all our mutual friends. That she had seen my infidelity, that she had told Ruby out of loyalty, even though she knew it would hurt, that I was a liar and a manipulator who was trying to make her look like the bad guy. Some friends contacted me to hear my side, but most just stopped talking to me. It's incredible how people prefer to believe the most dramatic story instead of thinking critically. I spent the next 2 months in a horrible depression. I hired a lawyer for the divorce, started packing Ruby's things she had left behind, tried to move on with my life. But it was impossible not to constantly think about the injustice of it all. I hadn't done anything wrong, and my life was destroyed. Savannah had won. And then, on an afternoon in November, I received a message from a number I didn't know. It said, "Hi, I'm Brianna, Savannah's friend. I need to talk to you about what happened with Ruby." At first, I thought it was another trap, another way to make me look bad. But something made me respond. I asked her what she wanted to talk about, and she said she preferred to tell me in person, that she had important information. We met at a cafe, ironically not far from the Starbucks where I supposedly cheated on Ruby 2 days later. Brianna arrived nervous, constantly looking at her phone as if she expected someone to be tracking her. She told me she had been Savannah's friend for about 3 years, that they had a strong fight recently, and Savannah had shown her true colors. And then she took out her phone and showed me screenshots of a group conversation. They were messages from Savannah to Brianna and 2 other girls. In those messages, Savannah literally admitted she had made up the whole story about seeing me with another woman. She said things like, "That asshole kicked me out of the house, so now he's going to know what it feels like to lose something important. And Ruby is so naive, she believed everything without questioning anything. And the best part is now, they're getting divorced and he's screwed." There were like 10 messages like that, all from months ago, all showing with crystal clarity that Savannah had fabricated everything. I believe what I was seeing. I asked Brianna why she was showing me this now, why she had waited so long. She told me that at the time she didn't know the situation had gotten so out of control that she thought it was just drama that Ruby and I would eventually resolve. But that she had found out recently we were officially divorced and her conscience wouldn't let her rest. Also, Savannah had done something similar with another friend recently, making up gossip to cause problems, and Brianna had decided enough was enough. I asked her to send me the screenshots, which she did immediately. She also told me she was willing to testify or talk to Ruby if necessary. I thanked her probably like 20 times, with tears in my eyes, because I finally had proof. I could finally prove I had been telling the truth all along. That same night, I messaged Ruby. She still had me blocked on almost everything, but I found a way to contact her through her work email. I told her I needed to see her, urgently, that I had proof that Savannah had lied. At first, she didn't respond, but I sent her one of the screenshots as a preview, and 10 minutes later she called me. Her voice sounded broken when she said, "Where did you get that?" I explained about Brianna, about the messages, about everything. We agreed to meet the next day at a neutral cafe. When she arrived, she looked terrible, like she hadn't slept in weeks. I probably looked the same. I showed her everything. Every message, every screenshot. I watched her face go from skepticism to shock to absolute horror as she read. And then she started crying. That kind of ugly crying where you can't even breathe well. She said, "I'm sorry," over and over. That she couldn't believe Savannah had done this to her. That she couldn't believe she had accused me of something like that without real proof. I asked her why she had believed Savannah so easily and not me. And Ruby looked at me with swollen eyes and said that Savannah had been so convincing. That she cried when she told her. That she gave so many specific details. That she never thought her best friend could lie to her about something so serious. That yes, looking back, she could see the signs of manipulation, but that in the moment she was so in shock, she could only process the idea that I had been unfaithful to her. She told me she wanted to fix things, that we could try again, that now she knew the truth and would never doubt me again. And I, even though part of me wanted to say yes, that I loved her and wanted to get back what we had, couldn't. Because the reality was, she had abandoned me without giving me the benefit of the doubt. She had chosen her friend's word over mine, her husband, without any concrete proof, and that wound was too deep. I told her I appreciated the apology, but I couldn't get back with her. That what happened had destroyed my trust not only in Savannah but in her too. That I needed to be with someone who would defend me when others attacked me, not with someone who was the first to believe the worst of me. Ruby cried more, said she understood, but please don't close the door permanently, that she was going to work on herself and earn my trust back. I told her the divorce was going to move forward, that part was already decided, but that I didn't hold a grudge and hoped she would learn from this. We hugged before leaving, and it was weird, familiar but painful at the same time. What I did next was send the screenshots to all the mutual friends who had stopped talking to me or who had believed Savannah's version. The response was immediate. I started receiving apology messages from people saying they couldn't believe Savannah had done that they regretted not believing me. Some even asked if I was going to sue her for defamation, which I honestly considered, but in the end decided it wasn't worth the time and emotional energy. Savannah found out super fast that her lie had been exposed. According to Natasha, another mutual friend who kept me updated, Savannah tried to do damage control, saying the messages were taken out of context or that it was a moment of weakness where she had exaggerated things out of anger. But nobody believed her. Literally, our entire social circle cut her off immediately. They uninvited her from groups, blocked her, excluded her from everything. Savannah did what all toxic people do when they get caught. She victimized herself on social media. She posted vague posts about how people don't understand her side of the story, about how she's struggling with her mental health, about how real victims are never believed. But even people who didn't know the complete situation could see through her manipulations. The comments were devastating. People basically telling her she was a liar and a bad person. Ruby, for her part, moved back in with her parents. I found out through Natasha that her mom was furious with her, not only for having destroyed her marriage because of a friend's lies, but for having been so blind to Savannah's manipulation all those years. Ruby also lost some friendships in the process, people who felt she had been complicit in Savannah's attacks against me. The most satisfying thing, though I know it sounds vindictive, was finding out Savannah lost her job. She worked in marketing for a mid-sized company here in Denver, and apparently she started having the same kind of drama at her office that she caused in her personal life. She fabricated some story about a coworker, similar to what she did to me, but this time, the coworker had proof she was lying from the beginning. The company fired her for creating a toxic work environment. Natasha also told me something that almost made me feel sorry. Almost. Ruby tried to contact Savannah like a month after everything exploded. Not to reconcile or apologize, but to basically yell at her, to tell her she had ruined her life. And Savannah, instead of showing any kind of remorse, told her she had brought it on herself for choosing me over their friendship, that if Ruby had been a true friend, she would have left me since the first time Savannah complained about me. That all of this was Ruby's fault for not having her priorities straight. That was the definitive end of their friendship. The divorce was finalized in February of this year. It was simple because we didn't have kids, and we divided assets equitably. Ruby didn't fight for anything. I think the remorse was too strong. I kept the apartment, she kept the car that was already in her name, that kind of thing. Now, several months later, I'm in a much better place. I'm still processing everything. I'm not going to lie and say I'm perfectly fine, but I'm healing. I started therapy, which has helped me a lot to process the betrayal and injustice of it all. I've been seeing someone new, nothing serious yet, but it's nice to feel like I can trust again. Ruby sent me a message like a month ago, just to see how I was. I responded briefly. Nothing deep, just that I was okay and hoped she was too. I don't know if we'll ever be friends or if I even want that. Part of me misses what we had, but the person I married isn't the same one, who abandoned me because of her friend's lies. Savannah, according to the last gossip I heard, moved to Colorado Springs to start fresh. I guess burning all your bridges in one city eventually forces you to look for new victims in another place. I don't feel satisfaction from her downfall, honestly. I just feel tired that people like her exist and can cause so much damage without real consequences until finally someone exposes them. And what bothers me most about all this, when I think about it at night when I can't sleep, is that Savannah never admitted what she did. She never apologized, never showed remorse. In her mind, she's the victim. She always has been. She always will be. And Ruby, even though she apologized and is clearly regretful, made a decision that can't be undone. She chose to believe a lie about me without really questioning it, and that says something about our relationship. I can't just forget. But I guess that's life, right? Sometimes the people we think know us best turn their backs on us when we most need them to trust us. Sometimes toxic friendships are stronger than marriages. And sometimes the truth eventually comes to light, even if it arrives too late to save what was lost. At least now, everyone knows I was telling the truth from the beginning. At least I have that vindication. And even though it doesn't fix my marriage, even though it doesn't erase the months of pain and loneliness, it's something. It's enough to move forward and build something new, something better, without people like Savannah poisoning my life from the inside.